So we're going to start, if you're like me, you like to follow along. And so we're going to make sure that everybody's got access to the user acceptance testing environment. And so you can just drop that into your browser, and that's the web address to be able to get to the Wildland Fire application portal. Let me share my screen. So when you got my screen.
We got it.
Perfect. Thank you. So this is relatively new within the last year or so, that more and more wildland fire applications are moving to this portal. So you may have access to it already. You may have been here. There may be some other things that you're already using that are housed within this application. There's two ways to authenticate. You can either, if you don't have a government e-auth or a PIV card, you can create a login.gov account. It's also good if you are a PIV user to link a login.gov account to that account. So if you're out on a fire, you can log in on a computer that you don't actually have a PIV card reader or something like that. You left it on the plane. Whoops. So I'm going to go ahead and authenticate into the portal using my login.gov. And I do use my FireNet. Oh, for heaven's sakes. I'm just typing away. And having a FireNet account for your login.gov does more than one thing. So the firenet.gov email addresses give users some permissions within the FAMAuth environment that are consistent with the permissions of a government email user, a federal government email user. So let's see how we did. This is what you should get when you go into the FAMAuth Wildland Fire application portal. You'll see your name up here in the right-hand corner, how you authenticated in case you forgot. And then all of the applications that are housed within the system. You'll see Wildland Fire applications at the top, and those are the production systems. So you will see in the production systems, you'll see the classic WFDS with the classic icon that you're used to seeing with the red with the black circle, and then the WFDS Next Gen. We have this pretty gradient fire symbol. I think if you look on this page, you can see we're running out of symbols of fire icons. So these, when we go to production, this is where you'll access that production environment. So don't click on this yet. Makes me hungry if you think of that, the Blackstone logo. So we're going to scroll down to this training applications. And this is where we'll find all the environments that we have available for users to start getting familiar with the application, as well as this is where our actual WFDS Next Gen training environment will be accessed. So here you'll see WFDS Classic training with red flames, black circle. And then you'll see that we have 3 different environments under the WFDS Next Gen logo. And if your screen is really small, I have you on a small screen today, you might not see the whole title of each of these tiles, but you can, if you hover over it, it'll tell you what it is. So this is the EDU, which is our training environment. This is our OAT, which is the operational acceptance testing. And so that's going to be really limited to folks that we have testing. So likely you will not ever need access to this. And then this last one here is WFDS Next Gen UAT, which is our user acceptance testing, which is what we have available right now for early adopters and for some of this pre-winter training. And one thing to know about this is that it is a development environment. And so our developers are working and pushing up new code every day. And so you may see new features, maybe a few bugs, but that's the best that we have for you available, and you'll be able to see as those enhancements happen in real time. So here's a pro tip. If you look at the upper right-hand corner of this tile, there's a little star with a plus. And if you click that, it's going to put it up here in your training applications, which is great because then you don't have to try and find the right application again. So that's getting us set up. Will the classic developer tiles be removed? I'm not sure about that. Wes might know, but I think for a while we're going to have classic in a read only to make sure that we've got all the legacy data moved over, and so we'll still need a way to access that. But I think it'll be clear perhaps on the tile, like if you hover over these, there's some language associated with it that perhaps, like that's just an example. We can say that this is a read-only environment, and I'm sure there'll be messages on the classic to let folks know that they need to go to next gen. We've transitioned. There is one WFDS, and it is next gen. So we're to this point. For those of you that already have accounts, thank you for hanging out and listening to this. Okay, so now we are going to, for those of you who do not have accounts, I'm going to show you two ways that you can request access and a role. And so the first way is if you go up to your name and click on the drop down, you may or may not have this request app access and roles option. This is what they call a FAM-auth user account. So if you don't have one set up already to go through what used to be INAP, which is now FAM-auth admin, you would have this. But if you, so for those of you who do have it and don't have access, go ahead and click on that. Actually, everybody, if you're here, go ahead and click on that request app and access if you have it. It's going to bring up a form within the Wildland Fire application portal, FAM-auth. This is FAM-auth admin. If you look at that URL, you can see it's still INAP up there. And it will look like this. So if you've gotten to this point, just hover and hold. I'm going to go ahead and close this and demonstrate the other way to get to this form. So for those of you who do not have this request app access and roles under your name, you're just going to click on the WFDS NextGen UAT tile, and it's going to try and authenticate you. You can see I took all the access away from this account of mine so that it would actually show up appropriately. So authentication success, subsequent login steps in progress, FAM-auth setup is required. Use the following link to request access. And if I go ahead and click that request access button, not sure if I hit it. It's going to take you to the same form. And it may prompt you to create, it may come up with a option. Do you have a FAM-auth account that you can link to, or do you want to create one? And you're going to create one. And I apologize that I don't know all the steps in that because that's really a FAM-auth thing and not a WFDS thing, but we're trying to work through that. So the forms are slightly different just in terms of the application access. So we are only, if we go in through the application and request access, it will already pre-fill in the application name and the instance. Once you create one application request, you'll be able to access this form from this location. So if you have this form, I'm going to just walk through quickly how this would be filled out. So this is going to be specifically for UAT, which is definitely what we want for this training today. And you'll see that you have to choose a role. And so roles in WFDS NextGen are simplified in that they're hierarchical. So we have 5 roles, and each of them build on each other. And so to make this easy on users, we've included a description of what those roles are. So right now, since I logged in with FAMOff. Or with my FireNet account, and I tried to hit the UAT instance, it's already given me this viewer role. And that role is very, very basic. You cannot see the map. You cannot see any of the incident information. You can only see your own personal user profile and access the geographic editor staff report. And so that's not what we want. Why we have that is so for folks can go in and kind of do self-service to find out who their geographic area editors are, and contact them directly. Because as we go to production, both training and production environments, we will have the geographic area editors will resume that responsibility for supporting users with their access and roles. They'll actually be able to approve roles, reject roles, and manage accounts within the FAMOff admin space. So viewer, we don't want. Editor now, on the other hand, is going to be the most common user role. And that role does allow you to view the map, edit decisions, start decisions, be an incident decision approver, as your individual qualifications allow. And so that's really going to be the workhorse for those folks that are writing and developing decision content. We also have fire behavior analyst. And so that's going to be limited to those folks that have the training and experience to be able to run and interpret fire behavior analyses. And so the, I'm not seeing that. You might want to refresh, but that, in the chat, there's an image of some very weird characters, which on the FAMOff, delightful. The fire behavior analyst also has all the privileges that the editor would have. So they can manage incident content, they can add collaborators, they can start a decision, they can do all the things that an editor can do. And in addition, they can start, request, or start analyses, respond to requests for analyses, and do all those things. They're also an implicit collaborator, so they don't have to specifically be added to the incident. In Classic, if you're familiar with Classic, you'll know that there's like the incident list of the people who are on able to work with that decision. Well, analysts are going to be implicit collaborators, so they don't need to be added to that list to be able to access any incident in the country. And then the next we have the geographic area editor, which in addition to the analyst roles, they would also be able to manage user roles and requests. And then we also have support. And so support is just the folks from the RD&A that and our development team that can work on the back end and do a little more fiddling. So for this, if you have this screen, that's great. I'm actually going to go back out and go back to the other screen just so I can discuss what we can do with this, what the difference is in the screens. So here you get to pick the application access and the instances. So what we can do if you have this available, you can actually, you're going to look for the WFDS Next Gen application. And so one thing to know about this, as in this transition period, and I think that this actually came out last week or maybe the end of the week before that, where WFDS Classic is actually also having to go through the FAMAuth user account. And so we're using the same bucket for WFDS Classic and WFDS Next Gen. That's why there's a little hyphen in there. And so to be able to access your WFDS Classic accounts now, you also need to request application access and roles. So for right now, we're going to select UAT. You can actually select all three. So we'll do it this way. So for folks that have this screen now, this is how you do it. And then you can individually request them on the drop down. So I'm going to actually select EDU, prod, and UAT. And so now you can see that you can request separate roles in each of the applications. What I want everybody to do, and this will ensure that you can seamlessly interact with WFDS Classic now that they've moved to this new system, is leave your application role for EDU at viewer. And we'll send out communications in the spring, or I mean in January, on when we're ready to allow users into this training environment and how to request new roles. So we're going to leave EDU as viewer. For WFDS Prod, we're also going to leave that as viewer. And so that's going to take you to the live WFDS Classic production environment. So these steps right here do not, the WFDS Classic still manages your roles within the application. So viewer is the appropriate thing to use here to be able to get into WFDS Classic. If you put something else here, the team is going to reject your request. You'll still have access to the environment, but it's kind of a lot of work. So it would help us out a lot if you just request a viewer. All right, and then at the bottom here, we have the application role for UAT. So just like in the other screen, the WFDS UAT is the instance, or UAT is the instance. And here I want folks to select editor. Unless you are a fire behavior analyst or geographic area editor already, editor is going to be the best fit for you. And then you click on it, you read it, and you say, yep, that's me. And we'll scroll down to the verification contact information. So the instructions say enter your manager or supervisor. In the future, when we get to, excuse me, the production environments, we're hoping that there's going to be an enhancement from the FAMAuth folks to be able to parse out these requests and send them directly to the appropriate geographic area editors. But for now, we don't have that in place. So adding your geographic area editor will be a good standard operating practice going forward, so we can make sure that you're matched up with the right person to be able to approve your account. This information doesn't go anywhere. It's just for reference from the person who is approving the account. You can use my name for now. And I mean, like, you can use my real phone number or pretend phone number, it doesn't matter. But it does have to have an email. So I will put that in the chat. Really quickly. And then you just click submit. And then on the back end, we'll go through and we'll start approving those requests. Excellent. So just occurred to me two things that I didn't cover fully is, some of the upsides of using the Wildland Fire Application Portal or FAMAuth. And so you know, there's no more passwords to update other than your login.gov. And I'm not even sure if you have to update that password. But so really just keeping track of that one thing to be able to authenticate in the system is a super big plus. And so it's no more, I need to update my password every 60, 90 days. So that is an enhancement. On the other side of that, FAMAuth has instituted a security control that requires users to have activity within 330 days. So 330 days, if you don't log into anything in the Wildland Fire application portal, your account will be I'm quote unquote removed. So it'll still be available for me to find it or for admin folks to be able to find that account within a certain amount of time and reactivate it. But users will run into an issue. And so that's just for FAMAuth. So that same security control is going to be applied to all the applications and the application instances. So what that means to you is that if you do not log in to the actual app or, you know, authenticate into the application or the UAT instance in 330 days, your roles and access to that application will be removed and you will have to request them again. So I think best practices, and so that's for each of the instances. So you have to log into production once every 330 days, and you have to log into EDU once every 330 days to maintain that access and roles. It's you will have to go through the same process. If you do not do that, you'll have to go through the same process to request access and roles again. If you allow that to happen, best practices are just set a reminder to do it twice a year, and then you will hit the same. You'll be golden, right? So 330 days is like 11 months, right? Yeah, ish. So not quite a year. So it doesn't fit with our annual refreshers or anything like that to be able to make sure that we update that. So if you don't have any reason to be in any of the instances or environments, really setting up something to help you remember, you will get a really uninformational email from the FAMAuth application. So it'll come from do not reply, NWCG, blah, 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 something that says you have an application that is going to expire in 10 days, but it doesn't tell you which one it is. So it could be any of those applications that you already have access and roles for within the FAMAuth environment.